Warning.
While we understand the topics we cover are often heavy, we never intend to disrespect the victims or their loved ones.
We will, however, roast the shit out of anyone responsible for the story you are about to hear.
The following may contain graphic content, so viewer discretion is advised.
You're all dark and twisty inside.
Dark and twisty.
Welcome to Dark and Twisties. I'm Amanda.
And I'm Melissa.
So before we get into anything, we really just want to thank you for listening and all of your support. We really appreciate that you're sticking with us while we try and get our shit together.
If you have a case suggestion or just want to leave us feedback or review, head to our website, www.darkandtwisties.com, our Instagram, Dark and Twisties Podcast. Send us an email at darktwisties@gmail.com. Or submit a comment on our YouTube channel, Dark and Twisties. I can talk today. We can.
Yeah, words are easy today. So let's talk Bloodthirsty Times. I actually think that was really fun seeing how another podcast that's similar to ours operates. They really did give us some good tips to use on our quest to be more professional.
Yeah, I mean, we aren't very professional, but I dig it.
Yeah, I dig it. It's a nice goal to have for later on.
It is. We were striving for greatness, so
Just baby steps, though.
the smallest baby steps, like preemie baby steps.
So that podcast aired on November 28th, so go check them out by searching Bloodthirsty Times wherever podcasts are available. Let me rephrase. I got to do some pretty epic voices while some of us struggled.
Listen, I tried my best.
Your best was shit, my guy.
They were fine. But at the same time, I listened back and cringed at myself a little.
It's okay. I had to force that one accent to come out, and it came out way different than I anticipated.
But at the same time, yours sounded believable. Mine just sounded like
crap.
an epileptic seizure.
Yeah, basically.
I mean, but even with our epic voices, it was a pretty neat story because we literally just talked about how we were so sick of the audacity of men. So it was nice to get the story of the audacity of a woman.
Yeah, it almost felt like they targeted us. They're like, you guys always talk shit about the audacity of men, and so we're going to choose this today.
I think they did that on purpose. Good old Catherine McKnight over there, her audacity.
Man, I really thought in the beginning there that her and I were going to relate, and then she got really murdery, so it kind of separated us.
To be fair, the audacity of men in that story was still pretty high, so they could have done a lot of things different knowing the kind of person that she was going to be.
Oh, for sure. Not saying in any way that what she did was right,
but
knowing the information that they had, they could have done a lot better.
They didn't help at all, especially the one dude who laughed at her when she was mad.
Yeah, if you laugh at somebody who's mad and who's raging, it just makes them more mad.
It does, but I feel like you were relating with her maybe a little too much at times, and I was getting a little worried.
Well, I understood the petty with a purpose thing. Her petty with a purpose got a little too violent for my taste.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I've actually researched Catherine, but not nearly to the extent that they had, because I knew she was crazy, but I wasn't aware that she was that crazy.
I didn't know about it.
You didn't know about it?
No, I literally had no idea about it until we talked about it, and that's why a lot of the things that they were talking about, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
There was a couple times they were going over parts of it, and I had to mute myself because I out loud was like, oh my God.
Yeah, the situation on the train tracks, without spoiling it, that was really disturbing.
Ugh.
Now, it's funny that I say that because the story that I'm about to tell you is almost worse in a sense. I mean, when people die, it's always awful, but this one is actually pretty brutal.
I haven't heard this one either, so I guess I'm in for a surprise.
Oh, I love that. I love being able to tell you all these really fucked up stories. It makes me happy.
It's the highlight of my day.
Good, it should be. So, before we get started, I've got to ask you, did you go to camp or did you do Girl Scouts or brownies or anything like that when you were a kid?
I did Girl Scouts, yeah.
So was that like something you did though for a long time, or did you just attend a few meetings, make a few things, and then was like, fuck this?
Uh, I wouldn't say for a while, but I know I did it long enough to go on one Girl Scouts camping trip.
So you mean like you had to do an overnight camping trip?
Yeah, intense.
Wow, that's intense.
I see what you did there. I get it.
Oh gosh. Okay, I got the dad joke out of my system. I feel better. But no, I never like went to camp. I never did Girl Scouts or anything like that. Probably because I wasn't a fan of spending the night places, you know?
You didn't like spending the night at other people's houses?
You homie, you can come over to my house and you can spend the night, but I did not enjoy going to other people's houses.
Huh.
No, thank you. How long did you have to actually like stay there?
I think it was just a weekend thing. So I think it was just like a Friday and Saturday. I don't even think it was Sunday because I think it was during the school year.
Oh,
So we came back like Sunday morning because we had school on Monday.
yeah, gotcha. Did they make you guys sleep in like a tent or a cabin?
I think we were in tents. That was so long ago, but I'm pretty sure it was tents.
Yeah, I never really had like an interest in doing anything like that.
Yeah.
And so before we get really into this, I do want to put a strong disclaimer out there that this story is going to be pretty rough. It does contain graphic information about the murder of young children, so if that's part of your no-no list, you should probably skip this episode. We are also going to have to put it into two parts because the events leading to and the crime itself are a lot, but so is the aftermath. So we're going to do it that way. You ready?
Um, maybe.
So, when you think of camp, what is the first thing that comes to mind?
Probably s'mores because I love s'mores
Oh,
outside.
yeah, those are so good. So, for me, when I think of camping, the first thing that comes to mind is a campfire and the stories that you tell around it. Now, we all know that campfire stories are told to scare you when you're out in the middle of nowhere. You and I, as parents, have probably told our girls this is just a story, it's not real, or that sort of thing doesn't happen in real life. But the events I'm about to tell you are just like the scary stories you would tell around a campfire, except for this one is not a story. This is the Oklahoma Girl Scout murders.
Dun dun
Dun
dun.
dun dun! Jesus. We had to. We had to.
I know, I'm sorry, I saw it, and as soon as you were done reading, I was gonna do it too, and I was like, she gonna kill me, but I'm gonna do it.
I know it's sitting there would just trigger you to say it.
Dun dun dun.
So, in the northeast corner of Oklahoma lies 410 acres of vast forest land, a location perfect to host summer camp, located close enough to town in case of an emergency, but far enough to be able to enjoy the peace and quiet. Camp Scott was a popular location for Girl Scouts in the Tulsa area to host their annual sleepaway camp since 1928. During the summer of 1977, they were celebrating their 49th anniversary of being open when tragedy struck. In April, as camp counselors were beginning their on site training in anticipation of the summer campers to arrive, Michelle Hoffman discovered that her tent had been ransacked while she and her roommates were away. Their bags were scattered all over the tent, along with a box of donuts that had been emptied out on the floor. Assuming that it was just a cruel prank, Michelle began to clean up the mess when she stumbled upon a tiny folded set of papers that was located on the inside of the empty donut box. The papers appeared to have been dirty and worn, like it had been in someone's pocket for a while. As she unfolded the papers, she noticed that the first few pages had the words kill written all over it, but the last page contained just one sentence. We're on a mission to kill 3 girls. Michelle quickly took the note to the camp director at the time, who told her that she would look into who wrote the note. But while investigating it, she found out that a separate set of campers had confessed to writing the note, so it was thrown out since it was just a harmless prank and there was no consequences. Since the note was no real threat, the on-site training continued to go as planned with no other reported disturbances.
Why do
So they didn't take it seriously at all.
Right, and why do I feel like that paper is gonna be not just a prank.
Well, because this is a podcast and it's about true crime and it's never just a prank.
I have a bad feeling.
On June 12th, approximately 140 young Girl Scouts from all over the Tulsa area began gathering at the Magic Empire Girl Scout headquarters, where they would say their final goodbyes to their family and board the buses. Located 50 miles from Tulsa was Camp Scott. Camp Scott sat on 410 acres of wooded terrain that was separated into 10 units, all named after American tribes that were located on the main road called Cookie Trail. From the maps, you can tell that the campsites are not evenly spread out and that some of them are further away and more remote than the others. One of those campsites, called Kiowa Camp, which I'm going to just refer to as K Camp because I don't want to butcher it every time.
The key camp, okay.
K Camp, which was located at the end of the trail on the west side, was equipped with a counselor's tent on one end and the bathroom on the other. Between them, in a horseshoe shape, was 7 makeshift tents. And I'm going to explain to you why I'm calling them makeshift tents. So these were constructed with 12-foot by 14-foot wooden platforms that were lined with fabric walls. Each tent could hold 3 to 4 cots and just had enough room for the girls to store their belongings. None of the tents had lights inside of them because as a part of the wilderness program, the darkness is supposed to be maintained at night. So each camper was instructed to bring their own flashlight along with a set of spare batteries.
I understand they're camping and you want them to have an experience, but leaving little girls in a tent by themselves, well, not even really a tent, but whatever it was, with no light besides a flashlight.
Yeah, I have a huge problem with the fact that they're outside in the wilderness, sleeping alone in their tents, and there's no counselor in there with them. For some of these girls, the ones that are closer to the bathroom are furthest away from the counselor's tent.
That's so messed up.
So I just don't see how that is a safe spot to send your kids for summer camp. I don't know how they can even run and operate as a camp.
Right.
Because don't they have to follow some type of rules? Wasn't there rules back then?
Yep, this is already pretty sketch.
Yeah, the conditions at this camp were definitely ones that would have warranted a call home. Come pick me up. This is not my idea of fun. If you don't come pick me up, I'm going to start walking.
And then whatever happens to me is on you. So come get me.
Exactly. Think about having to go to the bathroom as a camper.
In the pitch dark with nothing but a flashlight.
Yeah, you're just sitting there shaking your little flashlight hand. It's so dark.
And also no adult to help you either because
Nope.
they're not even in the same tent with you. So
Nope, they're at the end.
no.
No big
Just
deal.
no.
Yeah, it's really great. I love it.
Ugh.
And so the K Camp counselors consisted of Carla, Susan, and Dee, and they were in charge of 27 campers that ranged from ages 7 to 10, so really little ones. After allowing the campers to get to know each other, the counselors would let them choose which tent they wanted to stay in and with who. With K Camp only having 27 members, each of the tents would sleep 4 girls, except one of them would only sleep 3. Once the girls picked out their tents, they were told to drop off their belongings and head over to the dining area with all the other campers so they can get the rules and have supper. As they finished up dinner, a storm quickly covered Camp Scott, forcing everyone to head to their tents for the night. They were instructed to change into a dry set of clothes and begin writing their first letters to home while they waited out the storm. Tent number 7 was near the bathrooms, but it was furthest from the counselor's tent, along with the direct view was obstructed by the shower building. So if the counselors needed to see tent 7, they would have to exit their tent and move to either the left or the right in order to see it. While the other tents they could directly see from the inside of their tent without getting out of it.
Who set this camp up? Let me ask.
Someone who did not have the safety of children in mind.
Who decided that they were going to put this one tent not in view of any of the adults and we're just like, this is such a good idea?
People in the 1970s do a lot of weird shit.
Oh God, I don't know.
As the girls are settling in for the night, 10-year-old Denise, 9-year-old Michelle, and 8-year-old Lori, who decided to bunk together inside of Tent 7, were finishing up their letters home while getting to know each other. The three had never met, but quickly became bonded before nightfall. 10-year-old Denise was anxious to be away from her family and battled back and forth about going. Ultimately, she had decided not to. But her mother was able to convince her to just go ahead and try it, and that if she really didn't like it, all she had to do was call home and they would come and get her. Denise had never been to camp before, but she was able to sell enough Girl Scout cookies to be able to attend with some of her friends. But unfortunately, at the last minute, her friends were not able to make it and she had to go alone. The letter that she wrote home said,
Dear Mom, I don't like camp. It's awful. The first day it rained. I have 3 new friends named Glenda, Lori, and Michelle. Michelle and Lori are my roommates. Mom, I don't want to stay at camp for 2 weeks. I want to come home and see Cassie and everybody. Your loving child, Denise Milner. Oh,
that really tugs on like my heartstrings.
that is the cutest thing.
Like she makes herself sound so grown up, like your loving child. It's adorable.
That's so sad.
9-year-old Michelle had previously attended Camp Scott the year before and was looking forward to going again. Before she kissed her parents goodbye, she made sure that they were going to water and take care of her plants while she was gone. The letter she wrote home said,
Dear Aunt Karen, how are you? I am fine. I am writing from camp. We can't go outside because it is storming. Me and my tent mates are in the last tent in our unit. So my tent mates are Denise Milner and Lori Farmer. My room is in shades of purple. Love, Michelle. Oh,
like you can just tell from their notes like how innocent they just really are,
that's
which
so
just makes you
cute.
think like they really should not have been out there like that.
Oh.
8-year-old Lori Farmer couldn't decide between going to Girl Scout camp or YMCA camp. So ultimately, it was her mother's decision that she went to Camp Scott. She had been looking forward to meeting new friends and was the youngest girl at Camp Scott that week. The letter that she wrote home said,
Dear Mom and Dad and Misty and Joe and Chad and Kathy, we're just getting ready to go to bed. It's 7:45. We're at the beginning of a storm and having a lot of fun. I've met 2 new friends, Michelle, how is it? Well, I'm gonna say Goose. Michelle Goose and Denise Milner. I'm sharing a tent with them. It started raining on the way back from dinner. We're sleeping on cots. I couldn't wait to write. We're all writing letters now because there's hardly anything else to do. With love, Lori. Aw, with love. Why are these little kids so sweet and proper?
those are the cutest notes
I
home.
love it. Yeah, there's the cutest little letters I've ever read.
So around 9 p.m., the K Camp counselors began to do their bed checks, instructing that all the campers would quiet down for the night and head to bed. The first nights at camp are usually always chaotic since campers are trying to settle themselves into a new place with new friends. So it's kind of expected for the counselors to have to get up multiple times throughout the night to kind of quiet everyone down. Around midnight, Carla woke up to the sound of the bathroom doors being slammed, but while investigating it, she found that it was just some campers who were leaving the bathroom. As she escorted them back to their tents, she listened in on every other tent as she passed by just to make sure that everyone was sleeping. After she decided that it was all quiet, she headed back to her tent and tried to go back to sleep. But around 1:30 a.m., she was again awoken by campers, but this time it was the girls inside of Tent 6. As Carla headed over there to warn them to stop making noises, she heard a strange noise coming from behind the tents. She described the noise as a low grunt that she wasn't sure was human or animal. When she pointed her flashlight towards the direction of the noise, it had stopped, so she returned to her tent. Strange noises in the wilderness was something that was common out there, but Carla states that she continued to hear that noise on and off for some time after.
No, I would have. Nope.
You'd have been done.
Peace out.
Yeah, bye. Like, she had no idea if it was human or an animal. Like, at that point, Mom, I gotta go.
I honestly, I don't care if it was an animal or if it was a human just behind a tent taking a shit. I'm gone.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have even shined my flashlight in that direction. I would have just turned and ran.
Yeah, no. What was that? Was that a noise? No. Goodbye. So Carla wasn't the only one. Other campers and counselors stated they also heard and saw strange things at night. One of the counselors from a different campsite saw a faint light that was coming from the woods, but when she got up to take a closer look, she saw that the light was actually moving towards K Camp and assumed that it was just a counselor, so she went back to bed. Multiple girls inside of the K Camp reported that at or around 1:30 a.m., they heard moaning sounds that were coming from or around Tent 7. One of the girls in Tent 6 stated that at about 2 a.m., she woke up to someone with a flashlight opening her tent, but then they quickly closed it and left. Another camper reported that they heard screaming coming from the general area of Tent 7 and someone crying for their mom at about 3 a.m., but she had figured that it was just a homesick camper and went right back to sleep. Now, the landowner of the property near the camp stated that they heard quite a bit of noise between 2:30 and 3 a.m. on the remote access road. But other than that, after 3 a.m., there was no other reports of noise on the camp property.
This is great.
Yeah, this is great. So many red flags.
Yeah, there's literally an infinite amount of red flags so far, and we're not even that far into the story yet. So, like,
Yeah, I slowly lose my hope for the era of the 1970s. Like, they did not have their shit together.
no.
Like, there's so many times that if I was a camp counselor as the adult, I would be looking for another adult. Someone who was like way more adultier than me, so that way they could deal with whatever the fuck was going on.
I'm not liking the direction this is going in. You see you see flashlights walking towards a campsite with a bunch of little kids, and you're just like, just one of them counselors over there. Definitely not anything to worry about.
Yeah, they needed a better system for like reporting stuff like that.
I don't know, and I think I have said this in a lot of our episodes. I don't know if other people's anxiety is just not as bad as mine and yours. So, like, they see this stuff and hear this stuff, and it's just like, it's fine. And then, like, we hear it and we're like, no, wait a minute.
Instantly, I check out.
Okay, so my balcony that I go and smoke on, it's on the second floor. It's the second floor, so, like, nothing's gonna get me,
No.
and if it is trying to get me, it's gonna take them a hot minute to be able to get up here. I can run away, but, like, I hear the faintest sound out in the woods.
I'm out of
Even
there.
if it sounds like it's, like, 30 feet away, I throw my cigarette and run inside and lock the door.
Yeah, you gotta get the hell out of there.
Honestly, I could have just lit the cigarette, and then I'm like, "You know what? I didn't need a cigarette. It's fine."
I was thinking about quitting. Perfect time.
Actually, I've been wanting to quit for months, so might as well. Bye.
Bye. All right, you ready?
Oh god. Yes.
So around 6 a.m., the Camp K counselor, Carla, which is a whole lot to say, that's a mouthful.
It's a lot, yeah.
So Carla decides to get up and take a shower before the rest of the camp wakes up. And as she's getting ready to leave, something catches her eye off to the side of the trail under some trees. She decides to take a closer look, and it appears to be some sleeping bags that had probably gotten lost in the chaos of the first day. In hopes of returning them to their owners, Carla headed closer when she suddenly noticed the body of a young girl lying face up and naked from the
No.
waist down on top of one of the sleeping
Oh,
bags.
no.
She quickly heads back to the counselor's tent where she wakes up Dee and tells her that there's been an accident and that she found a body in the woods. She instructed Dee to start at tent 7 while she started at tent 1, hoping to meet in the middle to exchange information. As Dee opens up the flaps of tent 7, she doesn't see any children or sleeping bags, but she does notice what appears to be blood smeared inside of the tent. Carla instructs Dee to stay at the camp while she heads up the road to get the camp nurse that was on duty. And once she was able to track down Mary, the camp nurse, she told her about the location of the body and how she had 3 campers that were currently missing. Mary instructed her to head over to the office and let Director Barbara Day and her husband Richard know what was going on. As Carla arrives at the office, she finds Barbara and Richard and told them what was going on and let them know that she had Nurse Mary, who also knows, and she's down at the scene. Barbara, Richard, and Carla all get into the camp vehicle and head down to the K Camp location where they run into Mary just at the end of the road. Mary informs them that she did go and look at the bodies and that there's not just one, there's actually 3, and they all appear to be the bodies of young females.
It's all 3 of them.
Barbara and Richard headed over to the bodies where Richard noticed that one of the females looked as if she had been brutally raped and decided to pull the sleeping bag over the lower part of her body because it had been exposed.
Oh my
It
god.
was then that he noticed the other 2 girls inside of the sleeping bags with a flashlight and a roll of tape next to them. Barbara and Richard had decided that they were going to head to the camp rangers station to call the police and instructed the 3 counselors to start evacuating the kids from the camp. She told the girls to let the campers know that they were going to go on a hike because Barbara had instructed them to take them up to the Great Hall, but not to use the main trail, but instead go through the wooded area to the front gate. Once they had arrived at the gate, there would be buses waiting for them to take them back to the Girl Scout headquarters. She told counselors to make up something like that there was something wrong with the water, and that unfortunately they had to close camp down while they figured it out. The parents had been contacted and informed that there was an accident that had occurred on the camp grounds and that they needed everyone to meet at the headquarters for further information. Up until the moment their child stepped off the bus, the family had no idea if something had happened to their child or not. And the families that were not able to locate their daughter coming off the bus were then taken by police to wait for further information.
Wow. That is so fucked up. That is so fucked up because you're getting a phone call being like, hey, something's happened, meet us there. And then in your head, you're jumping to what's happened to my child.
Yeah, not having like any answers at all, that would literally drive me insane. And then to be like one of the parents of the girls, seeing everybody else's child get off of that bus and go hug their parents, and then you're like, where's mine? And they're like, well,
And then you're still being told, oh, you have to wait. Oh, God, that is so messed up.
by the time that police arrived, staff had already been able to identify the girls' bodies as the 3 missing campers from Tent 7. Lori and Michelle were both inside of their sleeping bags and appeared to have been bludgeoned to death, while Denise was lying on top of hers. Richard informed police that Denise had previously been exposed and that he had pulled the sleeping bag up over her lower body because she was naked from the waist down and her legs were spread. He told police that it was clear she had suffered from a horrific sexual assault and he didn't want anybody else having to see that.
That's honestly like sickening. Just hearing that, knowing that she was 10 years old.
Yeah, it's disgusting. And all she wanted to do, she didn't even want to be there. She wanted to go home.
Yeah, she wanted to go home. Oh, God.
Yeah, that's all she wanted.
Oh, God. I literally just got the chills.
Yeah.
Like, 3 girls who literally just went to a camp because they wanted to have fun for 2 weeks in the summertime.
Not
and
even
then the first fucking day. That's just.
Yeah, I couldn't even imagine. Like, just think about how scared they were already. Like, it's raining outside. Like, you're alone.
It's storming. Yeah. And I mean, you got to think as they were like staying together, they were probably getting closer, thinking like, oh, I've made new friends. I'm going to have a good time. I know I don't want to be here right now, but I'm going to have fun.
Yeah, I bet they were trying to be really, like, positive about it when it was just a really shitty
Yeah.
situation.
That's honestly so fucking heartbreaking.
They shouldn't have been in it at all.
Because now that you hear everything that happened and then you think back on all these reports of people saying they heard crying and somebody saying they wanted their mommy
Yeah, or like the fact that they heard weird grunting and moaning noises.
and moaning and oh my God. Like again, I get it. It was back in the 70s. Things were a lot different then, but to me, it just seems very irresponsible to just walk by a tent to make sure you're not hearing them like talking instead of just looking in to making sure, like, just to make sure they're okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I wonder if they had certain rules that they had to follow. Like, was the bed checks at night, did they have to be done at a certain time or in certain intervals? Or was there one where they just had to listen to the sounds and one where they had to, like, physically count the bodies? Because I just feel like if that was a rule in place that they were utilizing, we probably would not have been in this situation.
Right. It's just, it boggles my mind. Like I said, I know it was the 70s. A lot of stuff was different back then,
Yeah.
but it just feels like to me it's just so irresponsible to just not go check on all of those noises that you're hearing.
Yeah, even if they thought the noises were like homesick campers, like you knowing that these girls are between 7 and 10, you should have gone and checked on them, like made them feel a little bit better, like tell them it's okay.
Comforted them. You should have comforted them. Right, because like it wouldn't have been that hard for them to like open the door or go in there if they heard someone crying for their mom and just be like, "It's okay. Don't worry. Tomorrow's going to be a better day." But instead they were just like, just a homesick kid. It's fine." Like, no.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I don't even like not even shaming them for the decisions that they made because they probably had no idea, but that would have been the better decision.
I'm not blaming the counselors at all. That's not I won't do that because it wasn't their fault.
Yeah, not only that, like the staff and the camp itself, like the camp itself needs to be looked at. Like it's not on these counselors, it's not on one single person, it's on a bunch of people at this point that the safety of these girls was not what it should have been.
Those counselors probably beat themselves up for a very long
Oh,
time
yeah.
afterwards.
Yeah, I don't even doubt it. So, back at Tent 7, police discovered that most of the attack on the girls had taken place inside of the tent because there was blood found on the walls and the floors. From what they could see, it appeared that the person who did this struck two of the girls inside of the tent and then tried to clean up the blood splatter with the bed sheets from their cots.
That's terrifying.
While collecting evidence, police find two different shoe size prints inside of the tent and then on the outside. They also found what appears to have been blood smear that was located on a towel outside of the counselor's tent. The flashlight that was located near the girls' bodies was dusted and a print was able to be lifted off of the lens. After police cleared the scene, they began to allow the girls to come back and collect their belongings and to see if there was anything they were missing. Some of the girls reported that they were missing a pair of prescription glasses, but other than that, nothing of importance seemed to have been missing. The bodies of Denise, Michelle, and Lori were then picked up and taken to the morgue where their families were able to officially identify their remains.
So why prescription glasses?
I mean, why not?
Does that come into it later?
Well, I mean, probably. I told you it.
Okay. Well, I won't ask too many questions then. That's just a very weird thing to take.
I guess you're just gonna have to find out.
Very interesting.
So, after the staff was able to get all of their belongings and police were able to get all the evidence that they needed at the time, Camp Scott was closed. The last day it was ever open was July 13th, 1977. As of today, that property is privately owned and it's only used and leased out when hunters want to use the land.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Thank God. The place sucked.
I mean, that's probably the best outcome of like land and or a house because it feels like every other case we've done, the house has either been turned into something, resold,
And people mess with it.
or like they do something weird with the land. So
Yeah.
like it's closed and people can just go hunt. That's fine. Just
Yeah.
hunt the animals. As long as you don't let kids there anymore, that's fine.
Yeah, no more kids are allowed on that property, ever.
I'm never sending my children to a sleepaway camp. Like
Oh, hell-
literally
hell no.
ever.
Hell no. Nope.
I don't understand. Like, I just feel like having kids that young, you should not have them in a tent alone no matter what.
Yeah, not even if they're together, like if there's a couple of them, no.
Ugh, it grosses me out.
So be on the lookout for part 2 of the Oklahoma Girl Scout murders. It probably won't be nearly as long as this one, but it definitely has some twists and turns that we haven't even touched on yet, so you're not going to want to miss it.
I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not looking forward to it.
Honestly, that's understandable.
Okay. Fuck you, Camp Scott.
Before we go, though, we did just want to shout out one of our favorite podcasts that we think you might actually like too, P&W Haunts and Homicides.
Hey creepy people, this is P&W Haunts and Homicides. I'm Caitlin.
And I'm Cassie.
Together we explore stories of the paranormal and true crime throughout the Pacific Northwest. We're just two normal-ish friends who wanted more creepy local stories. Our episodes start with a tarot reading to help us gain some insight on each topic as we share the facts of the case and our interpretations.
Come join us. We've got plenty of wine, laughs, and stories to share.
You can find our episodes featuring true stories from infamous as well as lesser-known true crime cases, like the murders in Tunnel 13 and Forest Park.
As well as our spooky stories from Pike Place and the Oregon Vortex on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Stitcher, and many more.
For all of you that are listening, if you have any true crime or paranormal stories that you want us to share, email us at pnwhauntsandhomicides@gmail.com.
Have a creepy ass day.
And go.
Find us on Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts by searching Dark and Twisties.
Follow us on Instagram at Dark and Twisties Podcast.
Check out our website at www.darkandtwisties.com.
And please, for the love of God, lock your fucking doors and never send your kids to camp.
Don't do it.
Bye.
Bye. Also, I'm going to go check to see if my door is locked right now.
Yeah, you should do that.